Hello, it's me, Eli. I'm making another video. This one's titled Why I Made ActionLand. I made it back in 2008, a little bit after I made Alien 101. But right after high school, a little bit of time off, and then I started working at Discovery Kingdom. I was working there for a while, and one day I met this caricature artist that was very shy and very talented, and I started playing around with the idea of making a comic book about, like being a character artist. Bounced a couple ideas around, and then one day I asked my friend who was working with me. I just looked to the side, and there was Dustin Chance, and he came up with this idea of kind of being a little bit more extreme with my ideas, pushing them a little bit. But he saw some potential in it, and he said that if I loosened up a little bit, I might be able to actually make something pretty fun and entertaining. And that's how ActionLand was born. So ActionLand, it's about a character artist trying to find their own artistic voice at a theme park, but that's boring. So I added monsters and sword fights to it. Francesca is our protagonist, and the whole story is kind of seen through her eyes. She's a high schooler, and she has an overactive imagination, and it stops her from focusing in class, and her grades are plummeting because she loved to doodle in her notebooks, and she gets really emotionally invested, and she sees these very vivid images of the things she's drawing. So her counselor decides to give her a summer job to help her, focus and get her creativity out in a more productive way, so that way she can leave that there and then focus on school. But as I said, as she gets to work and she starts being a character artist, drawing her portraits, she starts seeing the customer's problems or their project, whatever they're trying to get her to do, as monsters that she needs to defeat with her art, which she sees as a sword, a weapon. Mundane things happening, but super actiony things happening in her head. And that's luckily for you, that's the side you get to see. ActionLand is designed for artists. Me as an artist, I didn't have a lot of teaching. I was all self-taught. There were certain parts about being a professional artist that I felt like I was lacking or missing. Different mindsets, different tools at my disposal that I feel like I was not aware of. One of the big things that I learned was that you need to produce content and get it out there. There's always those doubts that artists have in their head that they're not good enough, or that there's thousands out there just like them. Why would anyone be interested in them? And I wanted to make a story about an artist that has all those fears and thoughts and overcomes them in one way or another, to kind of teach young artists that that is what you need to do in order to be professionally viable as an artist. So that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty much the generalization of the story and kind of the heart behind it. But there's a couple of narrative elements to it that I put in as well. Customers have problems, and Fran sees those as monsters. The two other things, artists use swords. Everyone at ActionLand uses these weapons, and they represent their pride and their trade and their passion. Fran has a sword, and it represents her creativity, her art. Different characters get different abilities based on what their specialty is and their personality type. How strong they are kind of depends on their effectiveness with their craft. So for example, there's a character, David, who's amazingly strong, and it's because he's an artist that has honed his craft over years, and he's very effective at conveying his message with his art. Fran, just starting out, she starts off at the bottom of the food chain, and her art isn't very powerful yet because she doesn't really know how to utilize it. Also, artist sword defense represents kind of their pride as an artist, how much they can take, how much discouragement or negativity they can take before they're crushed. They just don't want to pick up the pencil again. If a sword gets broken in ActionLand, it's because that's happening to them. Their will to continue to draw is broken. So it's very serious. Swords also have a release, kind of like if you've watched Bleach, Zanpakuto have this release state. Artists have one as well. Artists first start off with this very basic sword. Eventually, after an artist discovers their own style based on the type of art that they've ingested, they'll develop their own art style, and the sword will take on a new form and have new abilities and traits because of that. So that's swords. There's also protocol, which I feel like I just real quick explain. Protocol in the ActionLand universe just kind of represents rules. So it's almost like reminding a person of the rules and regulations of an area. Usually has an immediate effect, but it's completely powered by how much that individual cares about that particular rule. And that's why you'll see some protocol taking effect and some of it being broken, also very Bleach-like. That's like keto spells and Hado spells from Bleach. There's a lot of reference from Bleach from the original concept, and a lot of it ended up staying. That's the thoughts I've put into ActionLand. There's a lot of different artists, and they all kind of represent different artistic archetypes, different types of artists. Artists that isn't sure of themselves, this is the pro. There's an artist just in it for the money because they need to eat. There's an artist in it for their own pride. There's an artist in it for friendship. There's an artist in it just to make people happy with their art. Sorry, there's a lot to dig into with ActionLand. So that is why I made ActionLand. Hope you go and check it out, or that you're just already enjoying it. If you have any questions about like characters or just the world that ActionLand takes place in, feel free to let me know. Thanks. Bye.